So our first ever recap of Snowpiercer. It's my friend Rich.
Season two.
Season 2.
But we will be doing a bit of a recap.
All right. So got episode 1 underway. We just finished it up first week. It's my friend Rich over in France. We're doing a little cross the pond action review. Just
Snowpiercer was actually a French idea.
It was.
I
didn't know that. I knew it was a graphic novel. I didn't realize it was a French graphic novel.
La Transperce Neige.
Actually, you know what? Now that you say that, I did know that.
Yeah. The thing I love, I think before we get into kind of what happened in the episode and the review, I think I just need to develop my own thoughts about it, but I also need to tell the world about just why I like Snowpiercer. And I think it's because I remember watching the film in 2012, I think the film came out, and just thinking, this is terrible. And almost thinking that it was like a bad idea that they somehow managed to get like just a 2-hour movie out of this like fairly bad idea. And then I was amazed when the season 1 came out, but I also think it just came around at the perfect time. It's like that theory. I think Bill Simmons came up with this theory about Steph Curry, that he just came around at the perfect time, because if he was around in the 1970s taking logo threes or trying like 23 pointers a game, the coach would have just like pulled him after 5 minutes. So he just came around at the perfect time. And I almost think the season 1 of Snowpiercer came around at the perfect time. We'd just gotten into lockdown in most places. There was nothing to do. Everyone started watching Netflix. This was like the biggest thing on Netflix at the time. So I think it just really hit all the right buttons. And actually, it turned out to be a pretty awesome first season.
It's funny you say that, because I think, like a lot of different things, we come at it from a little bit of a different angle. So I knew of the movie and always refused to watch the movie because I was like, this is just Captain America in a Captain America movie, right? And I was just like, I'm just not gonna watch it.
Come on, he's a distinct actor. He's got range. Have you not seen Knives Out? Is it Knives Out?
I have seen Knives Out.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
enjoyed that movie. But yeah, he wasn't even really in that movie, was he? But yeah, it scrolled through Netflix as action movie, and I was like, this is the stupid Netflix algorithm trying to teach me to watch this movie. I just resisted. And then obviously,
the algorithm bases off what you've watched. So obviously,
yeah, but it's such a terrible.
Obviously, been watching bad action movies, and it's recommended.
Absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. That's all of us. Like, we all watch bad films, and then we take it out on Netflix for suggesting even worse films. But Parasite came out last year, obviously.
I've not seen it.
Right, neither have I. Because it's got subtitles, and that requires me to read. And so I like my movies easy. I'm an American.
Like freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want the freedom to watch it, not freaking read subtitles. And I found out that it was the same director, writer, producer, whatever. And so it immediately, like the next day after the Oscars, was like #1 trendy movie on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, you know what? I'll watch it. And you know what? I really liked it. So I'm the opposite of you. I actually thought it was a good movie. And I really liked the idea, and I really liked the concept. I think it speaks volumes to society as a whole. And
right, yeah.
Especially nowadays, whether you want to point to the current stock market issue or whatever else, like people are very quick to blame other people.
Hey, come on! I've got a couple of $100 on GameStop tomorrow.
I'm still hoping for AMC. Speaking of movies, but yeah, I just think it's incredible that people are able to blame everybody else for the fact that they're not willing to put in the time and the effort or anything else. Like, this is just society.
Those tailies have put in time. Don't say that. Those tailies have done that.
Exactly. Bit. So it's just the way society works. There's got to be rich and there's got to be poor. And I think that this, I know you're shaking your head. Obviously, I think in the animal kingdom it works that way. In the human world it works that way, right? There's haves and there's have-nots. And, you can work and you can make yourself better. but there's always going to be a divide of power, and that really spoke to me, and so I enjoyed the movie. And then you started watching Snowpiercer, and obviously it's out here on TNT, not on Netflix. So I get all the nice commercials in with it, just in case you want to get yourself some nice crispy barbecue strips from Carl's.
So it's like 2 hours long, and like
it is. It's so long. It premiered on a Thursday, right? But now they're on Monday nights. The confusion. The absolute confusion. Why not just premiere it on a Monday night and keep it on a freaking Monday night?
Because Monday Night Football's not on anymore, and so now it's
it wasn't on this week either.
Oh, so they did like one.
It literally premiered this Thursday.
Right, okay. Well, I know Thursday at like 9 p.m. is like peak viewing time for any TV show. So.
Yeah, for sure. But now it's on Mondays, so it's just
maybe
a little confusing.
They put the premiere on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's dig into the first episode.
Before we do that, why don't you give us a couple of minute rundown of what we saw in season 1?
So season 1, we've got the tailies. So we have a train that's divided into the haves and the have-nots, essentially. Basically, the premise of the story is that due to global warming, some scientists created a chemical that they put out into the atmosphere that was supposed to cool things down. Now,
good job, scientists.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well done, scientists. Now, essentially, as humans always do, they screwed this up. So they've gone the other way too far, and Earth is spiraling into this.
I just imagine some scientists like, what do you want? You wanted it colder. Like, what's the problem?
Like there's a good mix. There's like a Swedish guy who's like, but I came up with the thing, and the Americans like, yeah, we shot too much of it.
You wanted cold, we made cold.
You got the Russian who's like, oh, we live in this. This is a cold weather. This is good. Right? And so now the world is spiraling into this frozen tundra, this desolate. I think it's negative 180 degrees outside is where it's going, where no human beings can live. Like you literally go out and you freeze and you're dead. So Mr. Wilford.
I'm going to pronounce it like Ruth because she's
like
from so my part of town.
I didn't even know how it was spelt until this new season. I looked it up on IMDb. I wanted to see who the actor was because I knew who it was. And it was like, oh, Wilford.
I mean, it's Sean Bean. I mean, I knew it because he speaks for like 10 seconds before you actually see his face. He's like, I see we got Snowpiercer again. I said, oh my God, it's Sean Bean.
I knew who it was, but my brain wasn't telling me who it was. So he develops this train. It's 180 cars long. I'm just going to repeat the 180.
No, it's
I think it's
1,001 cars long, and now it is 900. I took notes yesterday when I was watching it, and now it's 994 cars long. Because you remember in season 1, there was that episode where they cut off like, the people.
Yeah, they were going through the pass or something like that. They had to get rid of some of the cars or whatever.
Right? 994 cars long now.
994 cars long now. But basically, you got to take it to get onto this, this train, and you were told that this is what was going to be your savior. So this train, which is just circling the globe nonstop along these.
So it's basically like instead of a bunker, like in every end of world movie, they're like people buy these bunkers underground, but this is just kind of the train,
a high-speed train. Right, and it can't go under a certain miles per hour because if it does, the cold starts setting in. But they've been able to create a society on the train.
They're taking some liberties with that plan though, because it stopped for like 30 minutes of the 1 hour episode.
It's Hollywood, all right, and it's a graphic novel, so they've got to take liberties with all of these things because otherwise you and I wouldn't be watching, and nobody would be watching, and it would just be like, oh look, there's a train, it's gone around, it's just gone around, that's all that's happening, right? So they've got the garden cars, they've got the first class cars, they've got the bar cars, they've got entertainment cars, they've got whatever. And then the main focus of season 1 is what are known as the tailies, the have-nots, the poor, essentially, and they live in this squalor.
The people who basically got on the train without a ticket, right?
Right, and they're stacked. They're the workers. They're stacked on top of each other. They're in bunk beds. They take the children out. certain children out, and they train them. Or at the beginning, you don't really know what they're doing with the children. They're just like, oh, children, we'll take the children, right? And then it turns out that they may train them for different tasks along the way. But they're eating these little bars.
Yeah, it's like this Jello kind of
right
thing.
And you don't know what it is until finally somebody makes it towards the front of the train. You find out that it's
I'm sure you eat some stuff like that. You're into fitness. Like this is like
ground up
pure
cockroaches.
protein and creatine.
I'm all into the ground up cockroaches that they make into some sort of gel. That's exactly what I like to do.
Right.
You're the freaking vegetarian, speaking of. What I like to do is I like to eat the Impossible Burger. It tastes exactly like meat, but it's not meat.
Hey, you've seen the adverts. People are amazed.
Why do you, sorry, just a side note, why would you need to do that? If you don't want to eat meat, why would you want something that's a facsimile of meat? Just eat meat.
Yeah, but there's some people become vegetarian for different reasons. Like
You're
some
right,
people become vegetarian because they don't want animals to be killed. Yes.
Right. But we all know, because you and I are intelligent human beings, that, farming kills more animals than eating animals. It does.
Right, yeah.
You listen to enough Joe Rogan.
You listen to too much Joe Rogan, I think.
I've been on a full 2-month cleanse.
I've not listened to him for ages, so
yeah, I think we probably tuned out right around the same time, right around Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, I miss it. No, I think the Kanye West one was the one where I wasn't even
gonna touch that. I tried Post Malone. He started talking about aliens and mushrooms, and I was like, I think I'm good for a while.
So anyway, season 1 is yes, you've got these different classes on the train, and there's an uprising, right?
Yes, they do have a full uprising, and they take over the rich, and they take over the middle class, and now basically the end of season 1 was supposed to be the rise of democracy, but also
right. And before we get into the climax of season 1, let's go through the main characters. Who've we got as the main characters?
So we've got Jennifer Garner, and
Melanie Cavill.
It's Melanie Cavill. All right, so she's the draw. Well, at least when I first started, I thought that she was the draw. Come to find out, she's actually not. But I'll get into that in a second. So Melanie Cavill. So she is the how to describe it? She's the head of hospitality.
She was head of hospitality, yeah.
Right, but she's also kind of in hospitality. They have sections in the train. There's the engineers. There's the hospitality. And hospitality is obviously, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's people that are wearing a nice uniform. They're in control of making sure that everybody feels good, but they're also in control of keeping order to a certain extent, making sure the tailies are the tailies and all the rest of it. She has taken control of the train, and she makes announcements, and she's the only liaison to Mr. Wilford, right? But
who's just up in the
up in the engineer room making sure the train runs.
I feel bad for that Brazilian guy. He never gets to do anything.
The two of them.
At least the other guy is sleeping with Melanie, right? But this Brazilian guy is just getting soup spilled on him when the train stops. Right? He's got a terrible life.
It's so true. And he has to take orders from what is he, Irish? The other guy is, I don't know, brooding and probably drunk.
Yeah.
Right. So she is the main character. She's also the main
designer of the train as well, right?
Influencer of the train,
of
everything that happens with the train. She makes up all the rules at this point. And because she's sort of the what to call her, she's kind of like the prophet of the train, because she's the only person that talks to the gods, supposedly, Mr. Wilford. So she's the spokesperson. I don't want to get into that analogy, because that's not really the best analogy for what she actually is, but that's almost what she's treated like at the beginning. Then the protagonist, I guess, is what you could call him, almost in a way, and who circling back to the other point, is actually a big draw in the show, is they call him Layton, but it's
Andre Layton.
It's Andre Layton, right? And it's Daveed Diggs, and I didn't know much about him, but he had become very popular because of Hamilton, which I still have not watched. that's why that's why I say he's kind of the draw. I didn't know that. And then somebody was like, oh, that's the guy from Hamilton. And I was just like, oh yeah. So everybody else in America has watched it. Except
you mean you don't have a spare $500 to go to Broadway and watch Hamilton?
No, he's on the Disney Plus one.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So he's on the more digestible one that, yeah. Also, I didn't, it's more than $500. Let's be realistic here. So he's the one, he is the catalyst of the uprising. He's not the catalyst, but he's the head of the uprising of the tailies. He's also,
but he's also kind of taken out of the tail because he's a detective and he's charged with solving a murder, right?
Which is the main storyline of season 1, which we never even got to.
You know, I kind of felt, and I almost feel like, I don't know if you ever watched Lost, like, 15, 17 years ago when it came out, and I almost felt
don't compare him to Michael. Don't go black to black here.
I'm not comparing anybody. I'm just saying it's almost like in the first season of Lost, you can tell it's something that's been written by a group of people, like, a focus group of like 10 writers, and they've just like thrown so many ideas at the wall. And I remember watching the first season of Lost going, oh my God, there's so many things. And once they tie all these loose ends, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. They didn't tie all those loose ends at all, right? And I almost feel like it was a bit like that in season 1 of Snowpiercer, because there's so many little things, like that weird thing that happens in the bar when like they go in those rooms and it's like weird, like I don't know, you see things,
like, and then you've got the sleepers.
Yeah, you got a guy who can speak Chinese. Yep. You've got that ginger girl who's like the young girl, and like,
you've got the drugs, you've got the family up in the front. Yeah, they do throw a lot out there, but also because I was interested in it and because I was trying to tell other people about it, I believe it's a series of 5 graphic novels, if I'm correct. So like I'm trying to figure out to myself, like, are they gonna follow strictly to it? Like, how many storylines carry over? What, whether it's a comic or whether it's a graphic.
Oh, it's going to be like a Game of Thrones. Like, we're going to run out of books and we're going to have to
exactly. You're going to make up your own stuff. Like, so it's very difficult.
Can you imagine season 6 of Snowpiercer? I don't know if this is
I don't think you could do it. Like, I was trying to think to myself, like, when I found out it was a series of like 5 graphic novels, I was like, all right, so some point the train stops, right? You gotta, like, maybe, I guess that's probably the future. And then
wow, we saw maybe a couple of signs in episode 1. Let's get into season 2
in the finale, and then let's just skim through a couple other ones. We've got Bess, who is that's the blonde one, but not the head, she's the one with the lesbian relationship.
Yeah. The brakeman.
The brakeman. Yes. Yeah, she's
security on the train.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, like, she's got a big role in the show, but like I'm not exactly sure what her role is. Then we've got Ruth. Ruth is the token Scottish person, or is token British person. What?
She's English.
Is she English? I was listening yesterday and I was like, I
actually checked because she sounds like she's from Blackpool, like kind of near Manchester, but she's actually from Sunderland.
Oh, okay. So so it's not far off from Scottish then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean 50 miles or something. So,
yeah, exactly. You can't.
So she's like the second in command from the.
She's also like
hospitality.
She's like the bastion of the rich, right? She
represents the establishment and the old.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Because she was like so happy that Mr. Wilford.
Oh my God, Mr. Wilford. And I think that more or less sums up like the main characters. Like the rest of them, they're there, and there's a couple that you're like, they might have a part to play coming up, but you're not really sure exactly right now how important they actually are.
So at the end of season 1, we just kind of managed to do this revolution where Leighton's kind of taken over power and he's going to distribute democracy to everybody, and they're not going to have the old regime that they had on the train. Melanie's decided she's just going to drive the train and just be a kind of worker, and it seemed like it was fine. And then another train turned up, and
a small train too.
Hey, it's called Big Alice. Come on.
Yeah, but it's only 27 cars.
40, I think.
Use your Mr. Note Taker over here. I'm diverting to you for the.
So that turns up on the track,
latches onto the back of them, right?
And then at the very end of season 1, the door opens and it's
Melanie's daughter,
Alexandra, Melanie's daughter,
I
who
believe
Melanie thought was dead.
Alexandra.
Yeah, maybe. Who Melanie thought was dead.
However, Melanie is not there. She is outside.
Yeah.
Right? So that's important. So she doesn't actually know that she exists at the end of season 1. She is outside. And what we find out that she's doing is basically trying to jam the docking gear, right? We didn't know that at the end of season 1. We thought she was outside trying to disconnect the trains, when in reality what she was doing was she was jamming the gear that stuck the 2 trains together.
Yeah.
Which is important in episode 1 of season 2.
Okay, so in episode 1, we almost have 2 kind of stories, going alongside each other. We have the kind of the Melanie story and the Snowpiercer story,
right?
If you like. So opening scene, I kind of like that cool graphic. It was like a cool cartoon at the start to open it. That was like a nice thing
at the beginning. I hated the intro because it was like when you ask a 60-year-old white kid to rap for the first time and he just goes, oh, train and plane and grain and like they just like,
that's like 80s rap. That like everyone used to rap like that in the 80s. You listen to Grandmaster Flash, it's like that.
Love the graphic, but like in the beginning there were 2 trains and then blah blah blah, and I was just like, all right, get over yourselves a little bit. You could have had a better intro.
And lots of pain and
yeah, exactly. 2 trains and double the pain, and you're like, oh, you did it, you Hollywood writer.
It's like John Cena rapping or something like that. So Melanie's outside and she's trying to work with this docking gear, and she does a couple of things. One, she's taken some axe to like one of the electrical wires, and she's also planting a bomb on this docking gear. But and also
collecting snow?
Collect some snow, because it should be too cold to snow.
Right. And I'm not thinking that at the beginning. I'm like, why is she collecting this? And then she just goes, it's snow or something like that as she's going. Like, it's sort of like an under the breath thing. Like, I'm not sure she's saying it. But also at the beginning, I had to watch that scene a couple of times because the train starts pulling away and she gets on. And
there's no way she'd have got on. It was going way too fast. Like
she's freezing cold.
Right, yeah.
She's about to die. And she's like, I'm gonna get there. But she gets onto Big Alice, and it took me a couple of minutes of realizing that that's what she got. But she also, this was the confusing part for me about that scene. At the end of season 1, does the communication fail that she's on? Because they're talking to her, the engineers at the front of the train at the front of Snowpiercer are talking to her, but she's not responding to them in the opening couple of scenes of season 2. So either she's just ignoring them and she's not telling them her plan at all, but it's in the helmet, so it's really difficult. They would at least be able to hear her going, right, and know that she's alive. But do you remember communication sever?
No, they pick it up and leave it as they want, as it kind of suits them for the story, I think. So anyway, yeah, Melanie goes into Big Alice, and she gets kind of put in decontamination and things like this. But we've also got this kind of standoff, right, at the back, in the tail,
in the meeting of the train.
Right, exactly. And they ask for basically a shopping list from Snowpiercer,
but also just quickly about this point, the tail end of Snowpiercer is the poor end of Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
The front of Big Alice seems to be the poor part of Big Alice.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Because he's at the back, right?
Right, because he's got to be at the back. And so Big Alice is driven from the back, right? Because we see, and obviously we're doing a summary, so spoiler alert, we see Alexandra, Melanie's daughter, driving, being the main engineer. So the 2 trains are reversed, right? They're completely reversed from each other. I was really struggling. The main thing I struggled with here was trying to figure out the analogy, the new analogy of what Big Alice is. Because like I said, for me, the analogy of Snowpiercer is this is society, right? This is how society is always going to be. So now Big Alice comes in, and I'm like, what does that stand for? And I think subsequently, like, now I'm realizing it's the exact opposite of Snowpiercer, but there's also some other weird, different things. So let's talk about they asked for a shopping list, right?
Maybe it's like, when new people come into anything, whether it's big tech or anything like that, and they're like, hey, we're like you, like the Democrat Party at the moment, like, hey, we're like you.
You know what my mind went to?
You still not got those $2,000 checks yet, and
Yeah. So I'll tell you where my mind went. So they asked for a shopping list, right? Snowpiercer, they're all like, the main thing is that they've just gotten to democracy, right? That's what they've all agreed on.
Wow, it's on hold, right?
Right. So they have to put that on hold. That's like the very first change.
That's like how every revolution gets worse as well. Like exactly. You look at any revolution in history, that's not today. We'll do it tomorrow. Like jam tomorrow.
Now that we've made a change, we'll wait for the change to happen.
Yeah.
So, basically, Leighton, organizes everybody. Leighton and Ruth organize everybody up, right? And Ruth is sort of dragging her feet a little bit, but also sort of like she's going to be in. I don't know. She's the troublemaker in my mind.
I was going to save that for the end, like predictions for future episodes, and we'll get back to.
She's kind of dragging her feet about certain things, and like also very clearly to me at this point, trying to put seeds of doubt in everybody's head about Leighton. She's like, oh, so democracy it's not democracy.
Take the big apartment and
exactly. Yeah. Then she puts in the big apartment and all the rest of it. But so they get all these items and then they give it to Big Alice because basically Big Alice is saying, what we're gonna do is we are going to anchor your train. We're gonna go into reverse and then we're gonna stop you guys, disconnect, and you guys are all gonna die. Right, because you guys aren't moving, and if you're not moving, then you get no heat, and then you die. So they got all this stuff, and now there's a connecting door. So this is my thoughts about what Big Alice stands for. This is what I've struggled with for a few days. It's almost like, and I'm just going to use America as the United States as an example because it's easy enough for me, right? So we got the United States. It's a formed country, right? We have our own opinions. We have our haves. We have our have-nots. And then what happens about halfway through? They open the door and they do a little barter for some weed, right? So it's almost like the U.S. and then the Mexico border, right? And we have different values from each other, although similar values, but different values from each other. And this is where the drugs come in. And it's so easy to blame somebody else for the problems that are within your own culture at this point. And also, weirdly enough, later on they're like, you have any other old school drugs like ether? What is this, the 1600s? Like, I was so confused by that line. I was like, Hollywood, you guys couldn't, you go, ether
like
or
mandrake
smack
or whatever
or cocaine. And you're like, you started with ether?
Oh, he asked for cocaine.
He did. No, I know. He said ether, smack, cocaine, I believe is the line. And I'm like, first off, smack is a combination of a couple different things, right? Don't remember what it is. I think it's like heroin and crack, right? No, that doesn't make any sense. I think it would have to come from like, if it's crack, then I think the first one would have to start with an S and an M, but I don't really know. Not being a big, dabble.
What's the deal with this guy who looks like freaking Thanos, Bob, or whatever he's called?
Ice Bob.
The guy who took out like.
You don't get previews for the next episode, do you?
I think you do, but I didn't watch it.
So. All right. So I watched it because obviously we get previews and I get previews for like the season coming up this season, right? So I watched that and there's some clues in there. So I don't.
You got those weird doctors as well. That was a
They're
weird scene.
What's their name?
Yeah,
Bridges or
I
something
don't
like
know.
that?
I'm not got a clue, but they were kind of weird when they were sorting out Melanie's shoulder.
We call it goop.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, once again, there are some things about this show that are definitely lacking for a lot of the good that's in the show. And I really, I was a little reticent last year, if you remember, to watch it, and then I got into it. There's definitely some, like, you guys could do a lot better. You could not call it goop. You guys could call it something else. Make it sound a little bit better. But yeah, so there's the weed that comes into Snowpiercer, which it's funny because they had a drug problem in season 1, something that was a lot worse than weed.
Well, I don't think this is a drug problem. This is just like
no, I know, but yet
I think you may be
really
reading too much into
Leighton
this.
was really pissed off about the weed at first, right? He
Yeah.
he goes, "You smell that? Who the hell is smoking weed right now?"
It's a cop. It's like part of his DNA.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't even consider that. I always forget that he's a.
But plus, isn't it legal in like 40 states in America now?
Yeah, but like, that's the other thing as well. What time period do you think Snowpiercer is actually set in?
It's supposed to be like the near future, like right, yeah, like very near future.
Yeah, but the books probably were written
82.
Right. So even if it is legal, do you think that this is Hollywood's updated version of it, or do you think that this is,
I don't know. I mean, having not read the graphic novel, but I doubt that was even in
next. You got to read them in French. I'll read them in English. We'll compare notes. that'll be a recap for a whole nother time.
Be another video right there.
That's a 3.5 days long video.
So Snowpiercer decides, now they've realized, okay, we can actually get these guys to open the door and do some trades. We could actually just take them, and they're a 40-car train, and we're a 984 car train. So let's just take them.
Also, we've just come off of a war, so we're battle tested.
Right. I mean,
and we're all unified.
Classic. This is classic, like French Revolution stuff. This is why for the next like 20 years after the French Revolution, Napoleon like kicked everyone's ass, because they were just like the hardest battle-tested army ever compared to anyone else.
To a certain extent as well,
Wow.
I know you're gonna, I know you got some biases over there. So right, you gotta
because we had freaking George Washington, who was a general in the British Army in the 7 Years' War, formed by the British Army, and then turns traitor.
My understanding, he was not even a particularly great general. He just happened to be like I think it was that, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe it was that he was 6'2", right? And so therefore, or maybe 6'3". So he wasn't right. Exactly. He was kind of like, wow, look at this big guy. And for what
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar walking along.
From what I understand, he was a decidedly average general.
Right.
Who somehow, through maybe speaking well or whatever else, just ended up in a position of power. But obviously we digress from American history here. So they unified. They're gonna try and take it over. So and
they're doing pretty well.
Right. Like, they asked for some ether. And after asking for some ether, they wrench open the door, and they immediately take a hospitality agent hostage. And I know him from something. I got to figure out where I know this guy from, because it was really buggy.
He's called Kevin.
No, I know.
I love it how they took him. They just like dragged him by the legs. And
also, I believe I'm correct in this. Kevin is the male version of Karen, right? So he's an asshole, right? But yes, they just drag him through, and now they've got to make way, because they know Melanie is over there. So their idea is that they now have a make weight, because they think that she's a hostage, when I'm not sure she is a hostage.
I think she is.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right. So where do I know this guy? Oh, Suits. That's where I know him from. All right.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, he's also in.
So anyway, they're doing well in this like takeover of Big Alice, and then
2 cards.
And then Bob.
And then
sending Bob, like
so
Wilford says.
The interplay, right? This is at this point, Melanie has come through, right? And she's about to eat dinner with Mr. Wilford. It's just like a weird thing. This is why I don't think she's a hostage. Like,
you know, it's so weird because like there's so much resentment between like the daughter and Wilford and Melanie, whereas it could have been like, look, you didn't come and like we had to go, and so the train just went, and like I'm sorry, but you missed your time, and like what did you expect me to do? And then like there's more to come though. There's more
into that a little bit more. She lied through her teeth the first season, and I think Mr. Wilford's probably done that to poison her daughter a little bit.
Why did no one guess? Like, you know, no one guessed, like apart from Leighton, that Wilford's never there. Like,
oh yeah. Well, I think probably, I don't know.
Should have just dressed that Brazilian guy up. No one's ever seen him before. And I don't, this is Mr. Wilford. Dress him up. I mean.
So at the time that they're having dinner, and I think at this point she hasn't realized that Alex is driving the train. So they're about to have dinner, and Mr. Wilford gets a call saying that Snowpiercer has boarded the train, and he says, "Release Bob." And they say, no, I'm gonna get the first name wrong, but they said something along the lines of, "You want Boogly Bob or do you want Ice Bob?" And he goes, "Who do you?"
Oh, I missed that bit.
Yeah, there's two Bobs, definitely two Bobs, right?
And they're both like tanks.
Yeah, but we haven't seen the other one yet. We've just seen Ice Bob. I don't know what Boogly Bob is, and I'm definitely
Ice Bob's
right. So
meathead.
Yeah. He's the Vin Diesel.
It's a bad family.
So he comes through, and it's not, and at first I'm like, I had to watch this scene twice to get it. And then as I went forward, I understood what was going on better. But it's not so much that he's domineering, because if you remember, the Tailies had to go against somebody in season 1 that was pretty, like, he was like a berserker, right? Do you remember that character? And he's even more profound in the movie, if I remember correctly. But I was like, how can one guy turn the tide? He opens portals to the outside, these little windows to the outside, and he can withstand the temperature. So as they're going back, right, this is like 5 minutes down the line, which is why I watched the scene again to try and figure out what the heck even happened. I thought it was gas. I didn't realize he had opened the train, right? I guess they made the sound effect of somebody freezing, but I didn't realize this. Leighton goes, geez, he was able to turn, withstand the temperature drop down to -70 degrees in 3 seconds. We just had to get out of there. And I was like, oh, okay. So he's some sort of biologically created, I believe, character, right, that can withstand the outside temperatures.
Yeah. And just to finish what happened before we get into like our thoughts on it and predictions. So at the end, Wilford gives the order to disconnect.
Hold up, just quickly. They're about to have dinner, and then he pulls up the door or whatever, revealing that Melanie's daughter, is driving the train.
Right.
I'd say it's a big plot. Oh, Alex.
And then he gives the order to disconnect Snowpiercer and Big Alice, but that bomb goes off because the explosive has been placed on the mechanism.
What it was that she
right. Yeah. And that is kind of where we leave. And then we start moving again because they say, well, we're in this together now and we're just got to keep moving forward.
They're a great poker play.
Right. So the train keeps moving and that's kind of how it ends. My main thoughts on it, just as we get into the last 10 minutes, my main thoughts on it are, look, it's the first episode of a new season. It's never going to be as good as like the last episode of the previous season because it, kind of reaches its climax, and then we're kind of back to story building and setting up some different story arcs for the next few episodes. So that seems what's happened in the last one, in the last episode. But it seems like there's some interesting different ways they could go with it. We've got that kind of something medical experiment kind of things happening. You even saw the woman who runs the bar, the mistress, and she said he wants, everything. He wants your mind and soul or something like that as well. So obviously there's something kind of going on from there. And it'll be interesting to see how the group's going to kind of turn on Leighton as well, because there was a little bit of that during the episode as he's kind of put martial law in place and kind of suspended the rollout of democracy. There's more to come from Ruth as well. I think some treachery from Hospitality is going to come from her, and she's going to be kind of playing behind the scenes to get public opinion against Leighton to cause chaos. And then in her mind, hopefully Wilford will come in. And I'm sure in the next episode, there's got to be a meeting between Wilford and Leighton at some point.
There is.
Right.
I've seen that.
Oh, in the preview. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, like, yeah, I'm not even going to go into the preview. That's, why all of this. But he's already discredited Leighton, right? He in a scene, he said something about, I can't remember off the top of my head what he said. He's like, who is it? Whatever. Mm-hmm. But, oh, no, he discredited Melanie for being overtaken by it and nobody named Leighton. He goes, I don't even know who that is, right? Never heard of him. So my thoughts about episode 1 as a whole as well is, like you said, obviously we're building storylines here, right? So the same way you're disappointed by the lack of follow through on storylines in season 1, we're going to be disappointed by some of these storylines that we've seen in episode 1, right? That just aren't going to come to fruition. Now, obviously, we don't know which ones those are yet, but I'm sure there are going to be a couple of these that just aren't done. Now, I don't think you introduce characters and introduce their names unless they play some sort of role. So I think Kevin somehow is going to play a role, right? Besides the fact that he is now a hostage, right? Because there's so many people in there. And as we said at the beginning, when we were going through characters, even that blonde one, the breaker or whatever, the breaker girl, or whatever, like I didn't know her name until I was, looking at it right now. Right. So maybe they introduced her name, maybe they didn't, but I think that somehow to me that signifies something. So I think he'll play a part in it. I have a feeling Hospitality somehow comes together, but sorry, I'm not going to make predictions. Obviously the interplay between Alex and Melanie is going to be a big part of this season. We've already seen the seeds sown for her trusting her mom already 5 minutes into us knowing that they have any sort of relationship.
Oh, she's betraying Wilford for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she already loves her mom. She's already like, I don't know if I can stop and reverse the train. I'm just not sure I can do it. And then she does and fails. And then she's just like, oh, mommy, you're so smart.
Yeah. And then Melanie had that face like.
Yeah, she put the little shit-eating grin on. She's like, my mom's smart. That's where I get it from. Woman power.
I think there's going to be quite a bit about this snow. Like, is it 180 degrees outside? Can we go outside?
Well, we've already had.
Let's throw someone outside and check. Like that's.
We've had. Well, that was. Nope, getting the movie conflated here. All right. But yes, that's a huge part, I think, of what's coming up. But so you've got the new scientists. You've got snow, which is now mentioned twice. Melanie picking it up, and then her daughter going, "What is this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's snow." So that's obviously going to be a very important thing. I think the scientists, those two, they have a name. I think it's the Hedges or something weird like that. They'll play. I think they're going to play a really big role in this. I think Ruth plays a big role because she's a loyalist.
Yep.
Right, and from the inside, and she'll take down Leighton. And I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Leighton as it goes on, because
his girlfriend's pregnant, which we didn't even mention, and that's kind of another thing as well.
That's a huge thing because that's the Messiah right there. That's the first baby. That's a baby, right? They said something weird. They were like, "This is the first pregnancy in a while," but we know that there's kids. Right? Did you catch that line at all?
Right, but wasn't it like they gave permission for people to have kids? Like apart from the tailies.
Maybe you're right, and also it's in between two sections, right? One was middle class, one was a tailie.
Wasn't she originally a tailie?
She was, but she was brought up for something or other, and she lived she was hidden in that like weird apartment above the bar cart or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that seems like the coolest section, where like the cleaners selling the drugs, like that section. You mean where like there's like the little Japanese food stand, and you just stand there and eat, and
Yeah,
that
and
seems like the coolest section, actually.
That's also where they congregated for like the rallying call or whatever else in season 1.
One train.
They've got like a drag race there. Right? I mean, drag race. I mean, like RuPaul drag race, not like cars.
Yeah, wasn't there like a boxing match or something?
There was there was a boxing match, which I thought was going to end up being a bigger thing than it was, because if you remember, there was.
See, it's just one of those ideas, like, oh, let's see it this, and it's just one of those things where you get like 10 people writing it, and
that guy that was accused of the murder,
the bodyguard.
Yeah, he made one appearance in the episode. Did you notice that? He was sitting next to that blonde chick,
really?
And he was like, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" And she was just like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And he said something along that was him.
And then he died like 2 minutes later. He falls on her.
He could have been such a big storyline after last season. And they're like, oh, well, now he's dead. We also don't see her getting out from under the body, but we know she's alive.
She'll get out till she's one of the main characters. She's like one of the 5 biggest characters. So,
she's got the Rihanna look, the long hair with the shaved sides.
Yeah.
Can't kill a character like that. So, any predictions?
I think I've gone through them. Yeah, that meeting between Leighton and Wilford, hospitality, trying to put a wedge between the people and Leighton. They're the kind of main one, and then the Melanie Alexandra storyline as well.
I'm gonna try and ignore the preview that I saw as much as possible, but I think at some point the train stops. Right, I think people go out of the train for sure. Like I'm fairly positive that happens.
That sounds like a kind of last episode, season 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's gonna be, and that's gonna be I
was just talking about prediction for episode 2.
Oh, prediction for episode 2.
Yeah,
I think my prediction for episode 2 would be somehow a communication from Kevin and Ruth to the hospitality agents on the other train. And I think that starts an insurrection, right? And possibly because it's a weird sort of common goal of Leighton and Melanie that they could band up against, right? So I think and I think the fact that Melanie's up, we already know that Kevin doesn't like her, right? And we already know that she's eating dinner with with Wilford. So I think that's like a big. I think that there's a easy common goal there of getting both of them out, and a little jealousy that Melanie's already having dinner with him. And then I think we have to have a side story. So I think we'll probably learn about Bob, Ice Bob.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, because they brought the scientists in there, and we got Ice Bob, and we already know about those weird sleeper cell things that they have in Snowpiercer. So I think somehow that whole thing is going to start taking shape next week, and we're going to find out something about Wilford and what he does to people and what his original plan for the train was. Because I don't think his original plan for the train was just to have people on there. I think
it doesn't seem like the type.
Yeah, well, I just want to have people on a train. I want to save humanity. I think his goal was to create
it's like these tech assholes who are like, we just want to connect the world. Like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. You just want to spy on us.
Yeah. Interfere with elections and things.
Yeah, now we got to go to, what's that one? That Parlor.
No. So like where the Proud Boys go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. I get to watch it on Monday night. And it'll probably be released for you on Monday night as well, I guess.
It was last year, because I used to watch it on Tuesdays. Like,
so did I.
Every night last year. So if it's out on Monday night in America, it'll be Tuesdays here.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish up. Let's finish up now, because I think we've kind of gone through most of episode 1, and we'll be back next week with our episode 2 review and predictions for episode 3.
Absolutely. I think this is fun. Give people a nice little insight. For anybody that's out there watching, remember we spam
my learners as well. Look, if you just stop watching it and then you can join in the conversation. This is what learning English is about. It's about joining in conversations.
And on the bright side, the English not that difficult, right?
I mean, this guy speaks it, so don't worry.
I didn't mean the language itself. I meant the language. In the
show. Snowpiercer, right? Yeah.
I really appreciate that. You're throwing in the freaking low blow. Now you're stepping over me like Iverson in the shirt.
You, me, man, yeah.
Like, don't worry. This idiot can speak it. Anybody can speak English. No, I meant the actual dialogue in the show. When I got to France, I was told to read Tintin, right? Because that would be the easiest way to learn. You learn at the lowest level, right? This has some great, easy.
Right, yeah. Snowpiercer is not Hamlet, so yeah, you could definitely get into it and watch
be able to understand everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's sign off, and we'll get them again next week, and we'll see what happens this week. I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. This is your first time on Zoom, right?
My first ever time on Zoom.
So you just got to press stop record.
Yeah. I got that. I'm not as stupid as I look. Although next I'm gonna do some more to not have all 7 of my heads showing.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy, man.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.